Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie here at Black Star Network. Each and every week, we are bringing you content that resonates with us in everyday life because oftentimes discovering how to stay balanced, how to get balanced, and how to remove things from our space that keeps us from being balanced can be a challenge. As we move into this holiday season, we're going to talk to some amazing and incredible human beings today. I am delighted to be joined by, you know her already, Terry Whit Bailey, Dr. Tierney, and we'll have special guests Rodney and Elena Hill. I am thrilled today that we're going to be talking about holidays. The holidays bring us this spirit of enjoyment, but oftentimes there's love, there's loss, and feeling as if we can, should, or maybe can't let go. Welcome in, everybody, and welcome to A Balanced Life.
Hey,
hello.
I am so delighted that we are having this conversation today because, you know, when we think about the holidays, and I have to tell you, we barely got past Halloween, seeming as if Thanksgiving may or may not get any credit at all. And we've moved right into Christmas with the decorations and the music and everything. Let me start right off at the top. When it comes to being able to take all of that, how do you guys feel about just skipping right over November? We go from pumpkins to Christmas trees. Terry.
No, absolutely not. In fact, when I think of November, all year, but when I think of November, we cannot forget the gratitude. We cannot forget Thanksgiving. I talk about it all the time. We have to make sure that we make time to be grateful for the things that we have. And so, no, I never skip over November. It's very important for me.
I can understand that. Dr. Tierney.
I wholeheartedly agree. I have a friend that's probably watching right now that's like, no, Christmas tree. But I get it. I get that Christmas is a very special time for a number of people and just the love that's in the air and everything that's around Christmas. But I completely agree with Dr. Bailey that we have to make sure that we're taking that pause to say thank you. You know, it's not just about the turkey. It's not just about stuffing ourselves with food. It's about taking that minute out of the 12 months of the year. This is the holiday where we are reminded to stop, to say thank you, and to be grateful for all that we already have and all that God has already done in our lives.
Absolutely. Now, we're going to be joined today by Rodney and Elena Hill, but Elena is here now. You're going to learn more about her and her story and the incredible life that she's living. But Elena, talk to me about that. Did you do the whole decorate the yard and the pumpkins? Did you have little treaters come by? And then what are your thoughts and feelings related to how we just skip from one holiday and just totally miss another?
I really think it's important that we learn how to be present in the moment while we're looking to what's coming up, being present in the moment. And while, yes, we weren't really big on trick-or-treaters or anything, November is a time for us to kind of prepare our hearts and minds, as the other guest said, certainly reflecting on what we're thankful for, but really preparing ourselves for what is ahead and enjoying what we have now, and especially if a heavy heart is what's ahead.
Absolutely. November is a time for gratitude, a time for Thanksgiving. And oftentimes, as we think about how we're balancing society and all of the things that are happening in our space, it's difficult to find things to be thankful for. Dr. Tierney, in your work as a level up coach, how are you helping people establish that baseline and boundary for gratitude? Now, we're 11 months into the year, and there are times when seemingly it's like people feel like the weight of the world is literally on their shoulders and they can't seem to escape the weight of it all. How are you helping them identify ways to move forward?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So this is one of the most, kind of difficult times of the year for a lot of people for a number of different reasons. So the first thing that I always do is help people, as Elena, is to just be present in the moment. Sometimes we'll start looking too far ahead and we'll start to feel anxious, or stressed out because we don't know what's coming. Or we'll get stuck in looking behind us at what it used to be or what happened or, how things were. So helping my clients to stay in the present, in the right now. What can you do right now in this moment, on this day, in this hour, sometime minute by minute, to help you move the needle forward, even if it's just a baby step, which leads me to the second thing. Sometimes we try to do all the things all at the same time. Sometimes we try to take these massive, huge leaps forward, and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be at a certain point by a certain time, and so we may be sitting here at the 11th month of the year going, oh, by now I wanted to have been at this place or have completed this or accomplished that, so making sure that we're taking our life in increments, eating the elephant one small bite at a time. So those two things can kind of help my clients to really stay in balance and not get, too far up or too far down during this time of year.
Let's talk about that for a moment. I want to unpack that a little bit because I'm the type of person, October, November, December is when I'm trying to wind down in order to gear up for the new year. So I don't wait till January to start my year. But then I have people in my space who are literally the individuals trying to get everything done before the end of the year. How do you help us shift that balance between the work we have to do and the work that other people want us to do so that we can keep some level of sanity or have levity in our day as we move toward needing things that other people are not seemingly understanding we need?
Absolutely. So this is where we have to have a conversation about boundaries. Okay. Now, often when I say boundaries, people think of barriers. People think that it's about them and what they want or how I need to keep them out or keep them out of my space. That's really a barrier. A boundary is when we're thinking about us, when we're thinking about what do I need? What do I need in order to reach my goals? What do I need to feel my best? And so when we're looking at here at the end of the year and trying to make sure we don't fall on either end of those spectrums, this is where we have to talk about those boundaries and look at, okay, what do I need for my family, for my, personal, mental, emotional health? What do I need to do for my business, for my career? What is it that I need in this moment? At this point, in my life, and then start to craft what you do around that. Sometimes it may be that it includes the things that others want you to do. Sometimes you might have to say no. I know that's a hard thing, but sometimes you might have to just say, no, I'm not doing that. And no is a full sentence. That's a full stop. No explanation, no descriptors needed or required, So this is where we have to make sure in staying in balance, we have to make sure that we have set our boundaries and we are effectively communicating and enforcing those boundaries so that we can stay in the flow. So that might mean that this is, for me as a life coach, this is peak season for me. This is when things gear up for me. For other people, this is the time where they start to pull back, reflect, get ready for, the new year. But this is where, as you are staying in balance, as you are exercising your boundaries, you'll know exactly what you need to do during this time of year, and you can activate on that and be successful in it.
Learning how to act on things that are required in your life to be successful often means being able to pivot, shift, or turn a corner when you're actually not ready to do so. I want to invite in Dr. Terry Whitt-Bailey. She's been with us before. She shared her incredible story, with us and the loss of her husband. And Terry, as we enter into this holiday season, you have some boundaries that you have set with people. And I want you to talk to us about that, but also how are you moving forward? Because I think a very big part of what we learned from your story before was the ability to recognize where you are emotionally, physically, spiritually, but also saying, I'm still Terry and I need to be able to turn the page in my life. Talk to us about that.
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity to share. And I feel like I owe a coaching fee to Dr. Tierney right now, the words that you just shared. And as far as boundaries and turning corners, I think that I go from one extreme to the other. I lost my husband in March after a 7-year battle with strokes, with double pneumonia, and with cancers. And, as I'm looking toward the holidays, I really wasn't thinking a lot about the holidays. But I had, I feel like I have what I'm calling a disease, SPS, which stands for spinning plate syndrome. I feel like I'm spinning plates everywhere because I enjoy doing things. But I think what I'm doing right now in terms of this syndrome is I'm spinning so many plates to stay so busy so I don't have to think about it. I'm doing and I'm doing, and I'm not doing for me, but I'm doing and I'm doing. And I'm realizing that some of those plates are starting to wobble. If you've ever seen those plates, how they start to wobble, and they're going to start falling and crashing. And so I've got to figure out where those boundaries are for me as a person that's still going through what I'm supposed to be in mourning. I don't even know what mourning is supposed to look like for me because I went back to work. I'm doing things normally, whatever that means. I do go home to an empty house now and trying to figure out how to do those things. When I go home, I try to go home as late as possible. So I do things, I volunteer, connected with my sorority, connected with church, all kinds of stuff that have kept me busy. But is that right? I think of the holidays right now as holidays. What can I do? And is that right? Probably not. Is it helping me to cope? Probably so. Is it right? I don't know. And so being able to hear how other people are dealing with life, whatever situation they're going through, helps me to evaluate myself and how I'm dealing with getting ready for Thanksgiving, Christmas holiday, Kwanzaa, all the holidays, and then the New Year that's coming up. My husband's birthday is on New Year's Day. And so I think that's probably going to be the hardest time for me. Thanksgiving was a very important holiday for his family. So I don't even know what I'm doing for Thanksgiving yet. And that's just a couple of weeks away. But trying to figure it out, trying to figure out how many plates need to spin, maybe none. I probably have 8 or 10 spinning right now. So Dr. Tierney, I'm listening to you, I'm hearing you, and I need to figure out how to settle and how to know that it's okay to not be okay.
I really do appreciate you sharing your heart and being vulnerable, because for a lot of our viewers, they're in that space where they're like, I don't know what to do. And, this is where we say it's okay to not be okay. Oftentimes we don't recognize that we can't be like other people, that we don't always have to smile and put on a face because we've been doing that for so long. But this will allow each of us to figure out how to emerge the way we need to emerge in our own time, in our own season, and at our own pace within the space and grace that we're giving ourselves. One of the things that you mentioned in readying for the holidays is, trying to figure out what to do. Can you give us a few tips, Dr. Whit-Bailey, about some of the things that you are considering doing in order to give you a sense of moving forward?
Yes, when I pray to God for peace, He gave that to me. And I've been living in peace through these last several months. When I get to the Christmas holiday, I enjoy the decorating because it adds another layer of peace to our home. And so I am going to decorate. It may not be as full blown as it used to be, but I know that there's a sense of peace with the lights and the colors and just the things that we did, as for many, many years. In fact, one of our wedding gifts was a Christmas tree 30 years ago. I guess it would be 31 years ago now. And so for 31 years, I put up the same tree. And so I probably will put up the same tree, maybe not the other trees, but that one tree I probably will still put up. Now, how easy will that be? Probably not very easy, but I'm going to do it because I think I need to do that. And I think it will be part of a healing process for me and for our family.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, so I'm going to take a break and I'm going to grab some tissue because it's time to take a break. And Terry, I have to tell you, I appreciate you so much for being able to be here as we go through these holidays and we go through these seasons, because it is this level of transparency and vulnerability that allows people to see that we are all still human. Yeah, we're doing this show. Yeah, we've got work. Yeah, we have family, we have friends, but individually, we have our own story, our own journey, and our own testimony. Thank you, Dr. Terry. When we come back after the break, we're going to meet a family who has been through several layers of loss. And, I know y'all go ahead and at me. I'm perfectly okay with that. But when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about how do you manage life dealing with loss as you go through the holidays. We'll be back after the break.
November 8th. We can vote today, y'all. Early vote started this week.
We're on Savannah State University's campus. We'll be dorm storming today, giving out treats for everyone. We hope to see everyone at the polls when it comes to November.
If you believe we got power, let them know. Make some noise. Put a fist up. I need to see a fist in the air because we got power. Come on, you put it up. Come get your shirt.
We're out here in the streets of Savannah, Georgia,
change. Do not forget to go vote. I got you. If we vote the right people in, we can make a change. We can get these resources in our community.
I am a woman, and it is important that we have the say-so of what we want to do with our bodies.
We're concentrating on entrepreneurism, providing young people with resources and training that they need in order to change their trajectories. We want Black down. Democracy is on the ballot. Voting rights is on the ballot. Voting suppression is on the ballot. I am most passionate about those three combined because they all impact each other.
Savannah is my home. I care about my community, and I care about representation in my community.
Our voices are still going to be heard no matter what kind of obstacles try to come up against us to stop us from voting. We're still going to be standing our ground.
I see the effort that's being made to keep our communities from voting. So that makes me realize it's even more important, because if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be fighting to make sure we could vote.
This doesn't stop this year. This is a forever movement.
We're going to exert our power as a people, walk in our rightful place. We're going to change our communities, fight for our communities, and build our communities.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, learning to live through the things that life throws at us often isn't easy. It can be challenging to rediscover our balance, reposition ourselves in order to be able to move forward. I am delighted today to talk to this young lady, and her name is Elena Hill. Welcome in, Elena.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited that you are here. Talk to us about who you are. You work in the area of leadership change, and oftentimes change does begin with the individual. So can you share with us your story and just move us through your journey?
Happily. So just, in summary, I'm an engineer turned IT project manager. Always stayed on the people side of change. I've really been passionate about how people respond to, adapt, and encourage change within themselves, within their organizations. And so I have a consultancy that is focused on helping executives and leaders lead change in their organizations. That includes corporate culture and diversity, as well as how they adopt new policies and practices in general. Personally, change has always been part of my life. I moved a lot as a child, learned how to adapt to my environment very quickly, and found that to be somewhat beneficial, I guess, from my professional standpoint. I'm the mom of 4 boys. Unfortunately, 8 years ago, my oldest passed away from cancer. And so when we lost him, it created an incredible shift in our lives and in our family. As you can imagine, as a business owner, there was limited energy to continue to grow my business. And it was also the same year that the industry that I had spent most of my career in, which is oil and gas, was suffering a major downturn. So pivoting, shifting, and rebuilding is something that I had to get really good at.
Learning how to shift and pivot, isn't always one of the things that people think about as having in their balanced living toolkit. When you think about how change happens, for you, walk us through a little bit of your journey. And I wanted to focus on this from the space of loss, because in losing a child, some people don't rebound. They don't know how to recover. How are you managing that during this 8-year period? And what are some things that you can share with our audience in your grief process of losing a child?
Well, one is I really focus on purpose. I'm a very purpose-driven individual. I give all honor and glory to God, my personal Savior, Jesus Christ. But it's just really important that in being purposeful in life and really having that focus of something that is bigger than ourselves, of why we're here, why we do what we do, and unfortunately, why some things happen. I embrace the purpose that comes from the pain in my life. When I lost my son, it was actually reemergence of grief because I lost my mother when I was so young. I was in high school. And so I feel like grief has been a part of my life, really part of my adult life, all of my life.
So that component of levels of loss and helping other individuals, because you write about grief and how to rediscover yourself and your purpose, and you teach individuals those things. What are some tips that you can provide for our viewers on how to set the pace for walking through your journey of grief?
Well, one, I want to echo something that was said earlier, which is setting boundaries. When we are limping in life, and we will have those seasons where we're limping, we really want to be mindful of what we commit to. We were talking about November previously, and November is November. As we prepare our hearts for the holidays and the busyness of the holidays, one thing that I've found just for my own peace and healing is to not overextend myself, because an overextended heart and an overextended mind is very easily triggered, it's much more difficult to manage emotionally. So it's being okay saying that you're not okay. It's acknowledging which invitations you want to accept, which ones you want to extend. And then when it comes to how we balance that with our professional lives, is ensuring that we have honest conversations with the leaders around us, which is why I'm so committed to helping leaders lead people who are going through numerous seasons and change in their own lives. It really takes the support of your superiors to be able to get through some of those difficult times.
Let's talk about that for a moment, because when we talk about you're your own boss, you're running your company, and during some of the seasons that you've had, you did work for other people. How do people approach sharing with their employer that they're not going to be at capacity?
Well, one is I actually encourage employers to initiate those conversations, because the employee, as you mentioned, might not feel quite comfortable. I think it's really incumbent upon leadership to be empathetic and to, acknowledge things that are going on around them. When my husband and I lost our son, we both had, careers that we're managing. Yes, I was my own boss, but I also rode shotgun to watching my husband navigate his corporate career. And it's really about having those conversations that say, I may need an extension on these deadlines, or I may need some additional support from someone else on the team, especially depending on what might be going on. And it's just really, really important that empathy become a key competency of every leader, and also something that we ourselves encourage for ourselves and for those around us.
I want to invite Dr. Tierney into this conversation because she does a lot with coaching individuals, and we talk about leveling up. And I don't know if this is going to be appropriate or not, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because sometimes you do have to level up in life when you're going through some of the most difficult things you've ever faced in life. Dr. Tierney, how do we figure out how to dig and level up in order to be able to move forward?
Yeah. We're gonna go there. Okay, so you're gonna make me get real transparent. So I'd like to hear it. Here it goes. Some of the greatest highs, the biggest accomplishments, the successes that you go to my website, go to my Instagram. You can see them. They happened when I was going through some of the most difficult times in my life. It was right after losing, my sister that God opened some doors, right after getting, connecting with you in the show, some things, the bottom fell out of some things, And so I say that, to say that oftentimes when we face challenges or, things happen, yes, we have to take a pause. Yes, we have to process. Yes, we have to absolutely pray. But that doesn't always mean that God is calling us or telling us to stop. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that means we have to just tuck our head as we lean into the headwinds. We have to lean into what's happening, because oftentimes hidden in that challenge is our greatest opportunity. So when you talk about digging deep, this is where we have to be very intimate in knowing ourselves and knowing when we need a nap and when we need to go ahead and take that meeting, knowing when we need to pause and knowing when we need to press through, because some of our biggest things are often wrapped in the form of or the package of a challenge, and so if we're stopping every time we encounter a difficulty, then we might miss the door to our next level. So this is it's something that I walk through my clients with, and getting connected with their who, because when you're connected with who you are and whose you are, then you'll know exactly what to do, when to do, how to do what you need to do.
Okay, so we're going to be a little more transparent, because you did mention losing your sister, and I know you lost her during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Was it due to COVID?
It was.
So I'm asking this question to help our viewers, because I know a lot of people are in that space.
Yeah.
How do you grow past some levels of bitterness related to the passing of your sister?
Mm-hmm.
And I can ask you this question because it's one of those spaces that I think you thrive in, to help others say, this is how I looked at it. This is how I viewed it. Can you walk us through that in the time that we have left in this blog?
Absolutely. So the first thing I had to do was just get real about it. I had to get real about how I felt. I couldn't walk around like, oh no, praise the Lord, everything is fine, everything. No, I had to actually say, right now I'm actually angry at God, because I don't understand. Why did he 3 days before her birthday? Like, why did that happen? Why did he take such a beautiful soul from this earth? I had to get real about what I didn't understand, what I felt, the anger that I felt, the sadness that I felt, and then I had to take what I was feeling. I couldn't just sit in it. I couldn't just stew in it. I had to take what I felt and say, okay, now Tierney, what are we going to do from here? What would she want you to do? What would she be telling you? And often I'll say on my Instagram where I'm like, okay, her name, I called her Booger. Hey, Booger. I'll say, okay, well, Booger will want me to get on social media, because she was always about me getting on social media. And so I started to do the things that I know that if she were still here with me, what would she be telling me to do? What would be her expectations? Would she want me to fold and fall and stop? No, she wouldn't. So I took those emotions and I channeled them into making me a better person, a stronger person, using it as the fuel to push me forward instead of the thing that stood in front of me, looking at it through the lens of what would my sister say? And then I found ways to honor her. I found ways to make her memory live, not just for me, but for other people who may have known her or may not have known her. And you would have loved her if you've known her, so you'll see little things I'll say on my social media. You'll see pictures of her on my social media. During the holidays, she loved Christmas. So I have a mini urn. It's about maybe this tall with her ashes in it. And she sits right in the middle of my mantle where I have like all the garland and all of that. She's right in the center. So she gets Christmas all the time. And I say, good morning, or Merry Christmas to her every morning, and so I find little ways to honor her for myself, so that as I'm grieving her and as I'm missing her, I'm remembering all of the good things. So I'm not stewing in what I feel. I'm being real about what I feel, but I'm using that as the fuel to help propel me forward.
Thank you for sharing that. When we come back after the break, we're going to engage the heels in a deeper dive on what it means to remember. We'll be back after the break.
Don't wait till November 8th. We can vote today. Y'all early vote started this week.
We're on Savannah State University's campus. We will be dorm storming today, giving out treats for everyone. We hope to see everyone at the polls when it comes to November.
If you believe we got power, let them know. Make some noise. Put a fist up. I need to see a fist in the air because we got power. Come on, you put it up. Come get your shirt. We're out here in the streets of Savannah, Georgia. James, do not forget to go vote. I got you. If we vote the right people in, we can make a change. We can get these resources in our community.
I am a woman, and it is important that we have the say-so of what we want to do with our bodies.
We're concentrating on entrepreneurism, providing young people with resources and training that they need in order to change their trajectories. We want Black down. Democracy's on the ballot.
Voting rights is on the ballot. Voting suppression is on the ballot. I am most passionate about those three combined because they all impact each other.
Savannah is my home. I care about my community, and I care about representation in my community.
Our voices are still going to be heard no matter what kind of obstacles try to come up against us to stop us from voting. We're still going to be standing our ground.
I see the effort that's being made to keep our communities from voting. So that makes me realize it's even more important, because if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be fighting to make sure we could vote.
This doesn't stop this year. This is a forever movement.
We're going to exert our power as a people, walk in our rightful place. We're going to change our communities, fight for our communities, and build our communities.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to A Balanced Life. As you can tell, learning to live through the holidays when we're in a state of grief oftentimes does throw us off being able to be balanced. And as you've heard, being able to remember our loved ones is a very important part of being able to move our lives forward. We're joined now by the Hills, and I'm excited for both of them to share their story with us about how they remember and honor their son. Hey, Hill family.
Hey, Dr. Jacquie.
Thank you both for joining us. And Rodney, thank you for, taking this time to come in. I will tell you that men who watch our show are like, do you have any male voices? Where is our presence? And it's like, I invite you, but you don't want to share with me. And I am excited that you are here, because we're entering to this space where oftentimes it's couples together who grow through as well as go through grief. Can you talk to us, Rodney, about the growth as a husband and a father that you've experienced through the loss of your oldest son?
Sure. I mean, I think that's, it's a little bit difficult to answer because I'm still growing. But I think one of the things that allowed me to grow in my grief was understanding I don't have to be all. That was a huge step for me, right? Because as men, we tend to take on everything as our responsibility, and we have to be strong for everybody. And so what I learned is to be a lot more vulnerable and being able to be more transparent and sharing in the things that I was going through. When I saw Malcolm first pass, my first thing was I've got to be strong for my family. So I pushed my grief to the side, to be quite honest with you. But we were going through some counseling, and we had a couple of classes that helped us talk through that. And what I really learned is I didn't have to do that. I don't have to always be the strongest person in the room. And that I can rely on other people to allow me to share my grief. So once I was able to do that, it was a game changer for me, right? I was able to talk about it. I was able to be transparent about it. I was able to share with my wife about it, because, even keeping those things inside can cause issues between couples, right? Where you're not talking to each other and sharing what you're actually feeling. My wife doesn't know everything that's going on in my head, and neither do I in hers. And so I wasn't sharing those things at first because I wanted to be strong for everybody else. So for me, that was the biggest game change in my growth, and learning to be vulnerable with my feelings and learning that I can share and that it's okay.
So I'm going to ask this on behalf of all the men, Rodney. Does it take anything away from you to be strong, to be vulnerable, and to be transparent?
Nothing at all, to be quite honest with you. No, I think that's, I've tried to make sure that my sons understand that as well, too. Our other three boys, that they understand that they can be vulnerable and that they can talk with us and they can talk and share their feelings. Holding it in only causes more pain, to be quite honest with you, right? And so it wasn't that the pain was going away just because I wasn't sharing it. It was just festering inside of me over and over again. And whether I realized it or not, those things were manifesting themselves to the people around me, even if I didn't think they were, right? My actions, my words, my, things that I was doing on a daily basis, those type of things were manifesting to everybody else. And so the thing that we've talked about is that just because you don't talk about it doesn't mean it's not there. And so I've learned that I need to open it up, open that bottle, release out those feelings, and then let them know that, okay, I'm feeling vulnerable in this way, and this is what I'm feeling today. And it's okay. I don't get any pushback. I don't get any jeers or anything like from anybody else. In fact, the men I've talked to, when I've told them I've been able to do that, it's been like a light bulb has come on for them as well, too, that they don't have to hold that pressure. We hold a lot anyway. I mean, a lot of stress anyway. That's one thing that we don't have to do alone if we can. So.
You make a very valid point, because in communities, we always say that the husband, the man in the house, is priest, protector, and provider. And oftentimes when you go through things of this nature, it literally makes you feel like if there's a chink in your armor. When you think about those things as a wife, supporting your husband as he goes through grief, how do you support and undergird that in order to keep balance in the home?
Well, one thing is, as we describe the roles of the husband, priest, provider, and protector, I really look at him providing emotional protection for myself and my sons, modeling for them what healthy grief looks like and how we express our emotions has been just such a blessing to just how that's been demonstrated, and how it creates this sense of safety for our entire family, that my heart is safe with him. That's one of the things I even said when we were first married. And then through our grief process, it's knowing that my hurting heart has been safe with him. And that's been very important for myself and for my sons.
And I was going to ask you about your sons. They've lost a brother, an older brother. And so how are they managing, and how do they seek you out when they need to talk?
I'll start. They, at this point, put it this way, it's been a bumpy ride. It's been a journey. Like I said, we're sitting here 8 years behind us. The first few years were just incredibly challenging, as everyone, and myself included, as we were all figuring out how we could express ourselves without while worrying about someone else's feelings. So everyone's natural inclination was to hold things in at first. While interestingly enough, at the same time, we immediately jumped into honoring Malcolm and having a race, and we say Malcolm's name often, we talk about him, but I think we found ourselves, I know as a mom, I would always watch my boys with one eye open, just to make sure they were okay. And I think that giving them space has been what's been most helpful. I think the first couple of years was figuring out what that space needed to look like.
Yeah. And I would just add quickly to that is that they didn't know what their new normal was going to be, right? So they didn't know how to react, what to react to. And to be quite frank, as I was saying before, I didn't know either. So I was holding. So I wasn't modeling exactly what they needed either. Once I realized that, and started sharing my feelings with them and having them talk about it a little bit more, then they started opening up a bit more. They saw, I think Elena was mentioning, emotional safety, that it's okay. Because if I'm not talking about it, as young men, they were saying, well, if dad's not talking about it, why should I talk about it, right? Why do I have to talk about my feelings? And so I learned that I needed to model that for them as well, too, because the same things that were festering and manifesting in me were doing the same thing to them as well, too. So we were all trying to figure out kind of our new normal and how do we move on from here, our new spaces, our new feelings, our new emotions, etc.
I think that that's very rich, because you do bring in that space of teaching another generation of young men not only how to master their emotions and harness their emotions, but to be vulnerable and transparent with those emotions. In this season of November, and of course, we're airing this show and it's Thanksgiving week in just a few days. How are you remembering Malcolm with a seat at the table? What is your family tradition now?
Well, one, not so much. So it's interesting. So for us, Thanksgiving, and this is when we talk about the layers of loss, our family has suffered some really deep losses this year. So every time you suffer a loss, we lost a really close uncle who was like a surrogate father to us in January to COVID, and then his beloved wife, who was like a surrogate mom and surrogate grandmother to them, just this July. So we're already going into the holiday season with an additional tenderness on top of what we already had. And so it's just always about saying their names, remembering what they did. I mean, just even wearing things that they wore. We say Malcolm's name so often, everyone calls all of our other boys Malcolm because they hear that name so often. And our youngest, who looks just like him, unfortunately, gets called Malcolm all the time. But in a way, he appreciates the resemblance. He appreciates the mentioning of his beloved brother's name. And so we just do that consistently. We put up the stockings for all of them, and we take some time to reminisce, and then we don't sit in it, but we revel in the amazing memories that our family of 6 was able to create.
Yeah, and one of the things that we did, Elena's absolutely right. I mean, we still put his stocking up every year, so the boys, they know, that's when they come to our house, they're going to see all 4 stockings up. We were talking about the seat at the table, and one of the things that was very cathartic for us as well too was that we're a Marvel geek family. Malcolm, so much so, particularly himself and I, right? And so after he passed, there was a new movie come out because we used to go to the movies all the time together. And so one of the things that we did, we literally had a seat at the table. We bought an extra ticket for him when we went to the first time as a family without him to see a Marvel movie. And it was emotional, and it was, but it really helped our boys to say, he's still here with us, right? Mm-hmm. And so we don't do that all the time, but every so often, we will kind of have a seat at the table and maybe, buy a seat just so nobody can sit in it if we're all together. Or even when we were eating dinner the other night, we had a seat open for him. We were celebrating one of our son's birthdays. So we do those type of things as well, too. But I think the most important one is just to make sure that we keep mentioning his name so that he's not forgotten.
If I can add something just really quickly, when we first lost Malcolm, one of the first conversations that we had, I don't remember who started it, but was, what are we going to say when people ask us how many sons we have? I mean, we've 4 boys. It's, the Hills have 4 boys. And we both just looked at each other and says, 4 boys. I mean, we still have 4 boys. And I've changed the order in which I start the conversation because I don't want to lead with that. But we always mention, Malcolm, and he's our son that's waiting for us on the other side of heaven.
Yeah.
I think that this conversation, as you mentioned, Rodney, is cathartic in the sense that it allows other people to say, I don't always have to grapple with grief. I think I hear that phrase together so often, grappling, I'm struggling, I'm wrestling. And I know this isn't easy, but the two of you have an ease about you when you talk about it. And so our audience, I'm going to ask you both this question. At what point did you know, and I know you're not fully healed, but there's a point where you get to talking about grief and loss without just breaking down all over the place every time. When did that kick in for you guys?
I'll put it this way, not fast enough for me according to my timeline. And that's something that I really had to pray about. Is I tried to create this self-imposed deadline that says, by this day, I'll be okay. I won't fall apart. And the reality is, and I'll answer honestly, Dr. Jacquie, today's a good day. His birthday is in March. I may struggle more to have that conversation on that particular day. And I've learned to not measure how heavy emotions are and just to accept that they are, to accept those waves come unpredictably at times when I don't want them to. To that point, when did the waves lessen? I would say probably about 3 years ago is when they lessened, but the waves still come.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me was you talked about grappling with grief. I kept grappling with the why. Mm-hmm. Why now? Why him? Why, at this point, right? Why did it have to happen? And I think once I stopped grappling with the why, right? Because I don't know exactly why, right? God has a plan for each and every one of us. So once I stopped grappling with the why, I was able to talk about him, without the waves overcoming me every time. Like Elena said, it gets tough around, the day that he passed. It gets a little tough around his birthday. It gets tough. We see things that people are doing that we say, Malcolm would have loved to do this if he'd have still been here. It gets tough those days, but not as much as it used to because I was always grappling with why, and I couldn't get the why out of my head. So every time I talked about his name, I would always start with, why did this have to happen? And those waves would just rush over me because I was like, why now? Once I let that go about the why and left it in God's hands, then the waves lessened, and I was able to talk about him on those days that might have been a lot tougher before.
Mm. Wow. I think about the days ahead and the things that are to come. And, we often think about, because you mentioned that Malcolm would have loved to do this, or Malcolm would have loved to do that. And I will say to both of you, we honor you and we both appreciate you. When we come back after the break, we're going to continue this conversation about how do we remember our loved ones for the holidays. And also, what are some of the traditions that you have that you just cannot live without when we back? That you just cannot live without when we're back after the break.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And I know that these segments have been heavy, but honestly, healing begins with remembering. It's okay to remember your loved ones. It's okay to put a seat at a table. It's okay to call their names. Let me just say that as we are growing in this season of life, we need to all take a moment just to pause and say, what does overcoming grief, working through your grief, grace in grief, what does it look like for you, the individual? I want to invite everybody back in, because as we are, just 2 days away from Thanksgiving, and we are talking about some of the things that we are going to be experiencing, I would love to hear, what are some of the traditions that you all have for the holidays? What are your favorite foods? What won't you take? What don't you like? And how are you preparing, to engage in this festive season of gratitude? Welcome back, everyone. There's something about Thanksgiving that it's the smells. Like when I walk into a store now, it's the cinnamon sticks, and when I see all of the people with the recipes, and heaven forbid I spend any more time in Costco with them passing out these little cups of things I ought to try, for the holidays. How are you all preparing, for the holidays? And, I'll start with you, Dr. Cheer. What are some of your favorite foods during the holidays?
So they should probably give me a sponsorship after I say this, but I'm gonna tell you that Popeye's turkey. Oh, honey,
turkey, Cajun turkey.
Yes, ma'am. I've had mine since October in the freezer, ready to go, because that I have to have me a turkey like that, and that's pretty much the only thing that I really like. Cook. I'll try to find somewhere else to go and just have my turkey, just at the house. But outside of that Popeye's turkey, Popeye's fried, that Cajun turkey, I really don't have a lot of big traditions for Thanksgiving. I try to just make sure that I'm taking a beat to really be grateful and thankful. And really the whole November, I love, Elena, what you said about November. I'm actually going to borrow that. And I also love what you said, Dr. Bailey, about the holidays and not the holidays. And so one of the things that I always try to make sure, around Thanksgiving, I don't put a lot of stress on myself around Thanksgiving. That's why I just, give me my turkey and I'm good. I don't really make a big production out of it, because that's my time to really sit, decompress, be thankful, be grateful, and eat my turkey.
Okay, eating turkey. Yeah. Dr. Bailey.
We're going to have to share that sponsorship.
Yes.
Popeye's turkey the last 2 years. Yes, that Popeye's turkey. There's nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
Our tradition, though, was the day after Thanksgiving, because for the last 30 years, I would make omelets with the turkey or the ham or whatever we had. I would always make an omelet on the morning after Thanksgiving, as well as the morning after Christmas. And so that's what we always looked forward to, is having brunch or breakfast the day after. I'll probably still do that. But that is our tradition. It's the day after.
The Hills.
Well, our tradition is always, it used to involve getting in the car, loading up the kids, and driving to Prairie View. That's where my dad's parents, my grandparents lived. And so we would have this really Southern traditional with the stove in the middle of the living room that my granddaddy would poke the wood. So it just really felt like we went back in time on Thanksgiving Day. And so they've gone on to be with the Lord, but their oldest daughter has maintained the tradition, at least from a bringing everyone together and cooking standpoint. And it's just really a time to be with family, laugh at the TV, what's going on with whatever game, football, and to eat and then go for a walk. We have always, there's a tradition, we'll eat way too much and then we'll go for a walk. Because we were talking earlier, we don't get the change of leaves in Houston, but hopefully that's kind of one of those cool days. And we get to say, it's kind of cool in Houston. Let's go for a walk.
Yep, and we also,
you said football.
Yeah, the other thing that we also do, and we haven't been able to do it with my mom before as much now, but before we would always on Christmas Day, we would get up and go to her house in pajamas. So we're driving across Houston to pajamas to eat pancakes and, good Southern breakfast with her. So the kids really loved that when we did that. So we need to pick that back up again.
All right, so let's have this great Christmas tree debate. Y'all already know the question is coming. Does the Christmas tree go up after you clear the Thanksgiving table? Dr. Tierney.
My Christmas tree goes up when I say it goes up. So one year it might be before I clear the table. The next year it might be 3 days after Christmas. This year it's going up on the day after Christmas because I cut a live tree. And so last year was my first year cutting it. So now I know what to expect. And so it's going up on the Friday right after Christmas. But
honestly, no Thanksgiving putting up the tree.
No, because the Christmas tree farm don't open up until Black Friday.
Okay, gotcha.
That's why it's that this year. But honestly, it's when whatever floats your boat, that's when you put up your tree.
All right, then, Dr. Terry.
Dr. Jacquie, tradition in our household was that I would put up all of the decorations. We have 3 trees. All of them are artificial on the first Friday in December, so that everyone would go to sleep. And when they wake up on that Saturday, the first Friday, whatever that day is, the date is, they would see the Christmas decorations. Probably won't worry about what day it is, but it will definitely be before Christmas.
Absolutely. The Hills.
We never had a day. It was always flow from the times our kids were little. It was what does our vacation schedule look like, work schedule? When do we feel like doing this? Is it the year we need to replace this tree? Because we would often use a artificial tree, right? At some point you have to replace it. So when the stores open. So it's not something that we set because it's not something we want to stress about. So when we feel it, when the kids are ready, when we're ready, that's when we put it up.
Absolutely. So we talk about when we put up the tree. We talk about some of our traditions. Okay. Another thing that always happens at Thanksgiving is it sweet potato pie or is it pumpkin pie?
Sweet potato.
Sweet potato.
Sweet potato.
No.
Did you say
so? The unanimous decision that it's going to be sweet potato pie.
Wait, Dr. Bailey said apple.
Said apple. Again, it's tradition. That's what my husband wanted. I would make a homemade apple pie every year. And I probably still will.
Wow. There's so many things. So another one that always comes up around the holidays, especially Thanksgiving. So are we doing cranberries, or are we doing cranberries in a can, as in the canned jelly?
We keep it easy. Just take it right out the can.
Ocean spray.
Ocean spray.
It shouldn't just say cranberry. It should at least be ocean spray. Yeah.
I want the whole berries.
Of course you do.
I don't want it at the can. I want the whole berries.
Oh my goodness. The whole berry. So, it's that whole thing when we go to people's houses and we're visiting, we're sort of like, who's bringing what? So tell me something you guys don't want to see on a Thanksgiving table when it comes to a food dish. Dr. Terry Bailey.
I don't want to see green beans out of a can.
Oh.
They have to be, if you're going to put green beans on the table, they need to be snapped and fresh. Don't bring them out of a can.
All right, the heels.
I don't want to see any stovetop stuff in it. It better be some dressing, and it better have a foot hanging out of it because a foot need to be put in it.
Yeah.
And that means it has to have everything in it. And that means cornbread, not bread.
That's right.
Yes.
Not a French loaf, not a baguette. It has to have some cornbread in it. That's why it's called dressing and not stuffing. Dr. Tierney.
You know, if I didn't cook it, then I'm not going to complain about it. That's my whole thing. I don't want to see anything that I had to cook on the table. So if somebody else cooked it, I'm game for it. If I don't like it, I'll just move around it and just smile and thank you kindly and just keep it moving.
All right. So last one related to things that we engage in on Thanksgiving. How do we feel about people bringing their plastic containers to take dishes home with them? What's your thought about that, Dr. Bailey?
That actually is an honor. I enjoy being able to share what we have. And so I even buy plastic containers. I buy extra aluminum foil because it's an honor for me to be able to share what we have and for people to like it enough to want to take some home.
Absolutely. The heels.
Please don't leave me with a week's worth of leftovers.
Exactly.
Please take them. Please enjoy them. Please heat them up. Do whatever it is that you need to do. But yes, please take them.
Please take them. Dr. Tierney.
Here again, as the person that's not cooking, I would never go to somebody's house with a plastic container or anything. I have two rules. One, I never show up empty-handed. So anytime I go to someone else's house for any type of holiday event, party, anything, I always at least take a hostess gift or buy the sodas or whatever the host tells me that, that is needed. So that's rule number one. I never show up empty-handed. Number two, I do not just immediately grab the foil, grab the Tupperware. I wait until someone says, hey, if you guys want anything, then you can take something, and then I may take a little, bites here and there, but I never show up with my Tupperware and I never show up empty-handed.
Oh, she can come over here.
Well, let me just say, I'm always leaving with.
Is that an invite?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's rule number one. Please don't take more than you brought.
Exactly.
Oh, now that is a good rule. Please do not take more than you brought. Thank you all for sharing your stories today. When we come back after the break, I'll give my reflections.
Don't wait till November 8th. We can vote today. Your early vote started this week.
We're on Savannah State University's campus. We will be dorm storming today, giving out treats for everyone. We hope to see everyone at the polls when it comes to November.
If you believe we got power, let them know. Make some noise. Put a fist up. I need to see a fist in the air because we got power. Come on, you put it up. Come get your shirt. We're out here in the streets of Savannah, Georgia. James, do not forget to go vote. I got you. If we vote the right people in, we can make a change. We can get these resources in our community.
I am a woman, and it is important that we have the say-so of what we want to do with our bodies.
We're concentrating on entrepreneurism, providing young people with resources and training that they need in order to change their trajectories. We want Black down.
Democracy is on the ballot. Voting rights is on the ballot. Voting suppression is on the ballot. I am most passionate about those three combined because they all impact each other.
Savannah is my home. I care about my community, and I care about representation in my community.
Our voices are still going to be heard no matter what kind of obstacles try to come up against us to stop us from voting. We're still going to be standing our ground.
I see the effort that's being made to keep our communities from voting. So that makes me realize it's even more important, because if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be fighting to make sure we couldn't vote.
This doesn't stop this year. This is a forever movement.
We're going to exert our power as a people, walk in our rightful place. We're going to change our communities, fight for our communities, and build our communities.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, the holidays, especially Thanksgiving, are filled with love, laughter, and even though we've experienced varying degrees of loss, there are ways for us to still show up and be engaged with everyone. I know that as you are experiencing the holidays and you're trying to figure out what you're going to bring, you guys have heard a few tips of things of your do's and your don'ts for the holidays. I hope that something that we have said here today will give you that space to get out and go visit your family and friends. Don't show up empty-handed. Only take what you can use, but most importantly, give yourself grace this holiday season to just emerge how you need to in order to keep living a balanced and fulfilled life. Thank you all for watching. Bye now.